There is so much going on. It is crazy right now with AI just dominating the landscape right now and taking over quickly. We've got the difference between Chat GPT and Baron XAI. We're going to be talking about the top lead sources for real estate agents, the housing shortage, the marketplace, the interest rates, how to capitalize on the shift that's happening in the market. And so much more with my good friend Jay Kinder. Guys, I got to tell you, for those of you that don't know Jay already, Jay has been an industry leader since, well, practically since he was in diapers. I'm telling you, this guy's been the second he got a real estate license, he started changing the industry. And I'm not even kidding when I say that. I mean, Jay's been around a minute and has done more in his real estate career than probably anybody you'll ever meet. And so Jay, it's always an honor to chat with you. And I appreciate you taking the time with me today. Just for clarification, you are a real estate agent right now with EXP, but you're entirely focused on helping agents in your downline, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Yeah. I love the industry. I'm not interested in going back out on appointments. You know, I've got enough of that under my belt. So yeah, my passion is helping people break through where they get stuck and building something big. So it's always fun. Being around real estate and what's going on. I love change. Like when there's change in the marketplace and there's fear in the marketplace, it creates opportunity. So for me, that's when you get creative and start, figuring out what the moves are on the table to really grow your business.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. I love that you said, fear in the marketplace. I always tell people, where there's chaos, there's opportunity. And right now there's a lot of chaos in the marketplace.
Yep.
And it's interesting. You look at the agent count. Agent count hasn't come down as far as I think a lot of us thought it would. But what's happened is we've had a lot more experienced agents get out of the industry. We've had some new agents come in that have kind of backfilled a lot of those numbers. But the reality is, what were the numbers last year? I want to say that something like 72% of all agents last year didn't even sell a single house, and it was some crazy low number of people that sold more than 45 houses. I want to say it was like 0.14% of the agents sold more than 45 houses last year. I mean, the reality is there are very few very experienced, very good agents in the marketplace right now, and I think this is a great opportunity for them. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably always been, we've always kind of said it's kind of the 95-5 rule, in terms of real estate. 5% of the agents are doing, 95% of the business. That's probably a little much, but yeah, there's, every year I've ever pulled it, the information or looked at the data, even in DFW, which is where I'm at right now, 50,000. I think it was out of 30,000 or 31,000 agents last I looked, it was 55% of them didn't sell a home. So yeah. Those aren't all full-time agents. That's largely probably people that aren't really, they're doing this as a hobby or, just a pastime or whatever. And so it's certainly way harder to do that. And if you're not making it your profession. I've always been an advocate of the agent that looks at this like a business and a profession and is a true professional. And so, there's not that many of those out there. And so that's a much smaller market that we're talking to here. But yeah, it's interesting. It's always going to be the case. I think, weeding out the weak is something this industry is needed. The lack of professionalism. NAR is, primarily, if you can fog a mirror, you can get a license. And, they're not going to change that because that's how they lobby for things to get done. They need numbers. So there's not this bar that's set to, in a level of professionalism that's being, put in there for you to be a real estate agent. So being a realtor is not necessarily a good thing, but being a professional is a whole nother level of professionalism exists with very few the agents in the marketplace. And those are the people I like working with.
I agree with you. And, I think the opportunity for them right now is better than it ever has been. I look at Austin, my son, he's been selling real estate now. He's in his third year, 150 listings last year. As far as I know. Yeah. Right. That's not counting his team. That's just him. As far as I know, I think he's the number one listing agent in the country right now. And, I look at him and I think, would that have been possible? Don't get me wrong. I don't want to shortchange him for his hard work or anything like that. But would that have been possible 4 years ago? Right. Or there's so many other agents that were actually active in the business 4 years ago that it would have been much more difficult to hit those kind of numbers in a single year.
Well, let's unpack this a bit, because I think everybody listening would probably like to know what exactly he did, because, one argument is, it was harder 4 years ago and now it's easier. And then I think another argument would be, well, it's harder right now than it's ever been. And so maybe, so what is he doing that's different? Nobody's selling, everybody's sitting on their, but here he is taking all these listings. So, I would love to know what has his focus been? How is he able to pick up this many listings and get in front of this many people?
Well, I think the answer won't surprise you, Jay. The answer is simply he's more disciplined than most agents are, and he shows up every day at the office. He's 6:30. He's in the office every day. At 7:30, he does his daily huddle with his team from 8 o'clock till noon. He prospects. He calls FSBOs expireds, cold call. Well, actually, he doesn't even do cold calls, but he does FSBOs expireds, follow up calls, and then he goes on appointments. And he sets anywhere from 2 to 4 appointments a day, 5 days a week. And he just crushes it on appointments. And that's it. That's all he does.
Yeah, that's a pretty efficient model. And I always say, you show me your calendar and I'll tell you your future, right? And that is why it's not the only way to do it, but it is with sheer effort, it's the best way to do it, in my opinion. It's how I did it.
Yeah. And I was just going to ask you. I was going to say, isn't that how you had built your business?
100%. Right. It is. I think now with marketing, but you have to have a budget. If you have, if you can start to, and the listing side's way harder, but you and I both know we've done billboards, we've done TV, we've done radio, we've done large scale marketing where you build a brand, and all marketing is where people get mixed up is it's about reach and frequency. How many people see the message and how frequently they see it. And where they get things wrong in marketing, if you're trying to get listings, is the frequency. You have to hit people more times in more different ways in order to get an inbound call for someone that's going to say, I want to list a house. And so whether you're using, it doesn't matter the medium, social media, direct mail, any number of different mediums you can use. But it's still about the number of people and the number of times those people see the message before they think of you first when it's time to sell. And that takes time. And it's not where I would take an agent and say, here, start here. I would say, let's learn the skills. Let's get beat up with FSBOs and expires and make those calls, because those costs per lead are free. Right. And so, that's why I love real estate. I mean, you literally can come in, as a young person, not having, I didn't have a college education. I didn't even graduate college. I came in and did the hustle work that other people weren't willing to do because I didn't have any money, and I didn't have a sphere of influence, so like it was okay, well, what can you do? Well, I can do that. So I guess I have to do that. And so, there's other ways to grow the business. And if you're more established, there's other things that, if you survive long enough, you got repeat, you got referral, you got sphere. But those things are not working, right now. A lot of agents, as that we talk to, as are saying, man, the things I was doing is not working. And I've always believed that outside of the prospecting side of it, which a lot of agents aren't willing to do, the ones that I know that, like, of the coaching clients that I had over the years that went to number one in their marketplace, like a Chris Waters, number one in Austin, Texas. I was coaching Chris on making those expired calls. He hated it, didn't want to do it. And, and most of us did, most of us didn't like it, but it was, you couldn't argue that the results were there. So, once you get past the fact that, hey, you're going to get hung up on people are going to say no, that's fine. This is, go for no. How many no's you got to get to the first yes? And you start setting appointments, and then you win that first listing. Now you got some confidence, and now it's like, okay, I know the game now. And so, I feel like all the top people that built businesses, came through that path. And if you don't have those war wounds and skills that have been developed of learning how to articulate exactly what needs to be said and what doesn't work and what does, like, then you can never hire someone to do that and make those calls. Because there's a point at which, you take so many listings that, you now I don't have time for the prospect. I got offers on, deals. And then it's like, okay, now I'm going to make this hire of this ISA to make these calls all day, not just, from 9 to noon, all day. And they might be as good as me all day because you've got the skill set. They might be able to set as many appointments as you if they call all day versus your 3 hours a day, or I really don't do it some days because I don't get around to it because I'm so busy. And so there's that transition, and you got to start, replacing yourself in different areas of the business, and you start realizing you're building the business. And so, it is a path I think that most people don't want to take, but it is certainly the most, it develops the skills you need to be able to win when you do start marketing, right? Like, when people don't already know, like, and trust you, and you can win, everybody always tells me like when they don't do marketing or they're not prospecting, they're like, oh, well, you give me face to face, I always win, right? I'll always win. Well, that's because somebody referred you, and the trust was already established. These people, you have to either establish trust when you get there or through marketing before you get there. And they're going to be interviewing another top agent or another discounter or somebody that they like. And now you got to figure out, how do I make them like me? How do I make them trust me? How do I make them see me as the authority on accomplishing this goal and putting the most money in your pocket? And that is a sales skill that has to be developed. And it's easier to develop that on free leads than it is on paid leads.
Dude, you're not wrong. And, you talk about marketing, I think what we're talking about here is, the foundational skill of being able to pick up that phone, have those conversations. And if that foundational skill is lacking in markets like we're in right now, people struggle, right? Which again, opens up a lot of opportunity for people that are willing to do that. And a lot of people say, oh, but Michael, I want to be on social media. I'm going to get all this business on social media, and I'm going to get the business here, and I'm going to, work with my sphere. Well, first of all, social media. I mean, look at what happens. What happens when a Twitter or a TikTok goes away, or when Facebook changes their algorithm, or maybe you get ghosted or whatever. Like, there's a million things that can happen there that can, shut off that portion of your business. And I'm not saying those things aren't valuable, but at the end of the day, one thing that you've always got that you can always make money with is pick up that phone, right? And Jay, you mentioned something. I want to ask your opinion on this. You said something about know, like, and trust. Lately, I've been doing a lot of teaching. I've been going around and teaching agents all over the country and just half-day events. And one of the things I talk about is, that people actually don't have to like you to do business with you. Right. And I took a page out of your playbook. I talked to them about, people need to trust you. But the problem is, I think most agents, they go into a listing appointment thinking, oh, I got to get them to like me. And they spend all this time trying to get them to like them, when in reality, what they should be doing is spending more time getting them to trust you. And if you'll spend more time on trust than you spend on like, you'll get more listings. And because now you become what Jay, you would call a trusted advisor, right?
Right.
And who would they rather do business with? A trusted advisor or their friend? I mean, that's a no-brainer. Right?
Yeah. There's no question. And, what's difficult is, there's all these great real estate agents all across the country that they know they're a better real estate agent, but there's some other agent in their market that's selling more houses than them. Right. And what the big difference between the two is nobody knows how great you are until they experience it. So, I always use this analogy, and I say, if I told y'all I could fly, if I'm speaking to a room of agents, if I told y'all I could fly, y'all would all be like, bullshit, you can't fly. But if I flew around the room and then landed back in the front, y'all be like, holy shit, he can fly, right? That's demonstrating, right? So demonstration, if you think about from a marketing perspective, I'm a geek on this stuff. I love this shit. So when we think about what is it? They paint the screen, the bottom of the boat. They put the screen and they spray the stuff all over.
I know what you're talking about. Flex seal. That's right. So they can run an ad, show that commercial, show that demonstration of the product working, and people just buy it. Right? Demonstration is the fastest way to build trust. That worked. I'm going to buy it. And so in real estate, really hard to demonstrate what it is that we do. It's hard to even articulate what we do, right? We do a lot. And so, in that appointment and largely prior to the arrival, what they consume is critically important. And so let me give you an example. You'll love this example. So when I was running NAEA, me and Mike had two offices. We're on one side, and then we had a real open office environment, probably 50 employees, and we had a sales team. And they were moving the office around, and so they moved the salespeople right in front of my office, which was great. I like hearing salespeople all day. And so my number one sales guy, he gets on a call, and the first thing, and we're selling coaching, primarily selling coaching to real estate agents. So this listen to the philosophy of this. I think this will resonate, and it'll give people another angle to think about the point I'm making. So the guy, John Marone is who it was. John gets on the call, best sales guy in the office. First question he asks is, do you know Mike and Jay? And I know the answer that the guy gave because I know what he went into next. They did not know who we were. They had never heard of me, never heard of Mike. And I was like, he is not going to sell coaching to this person on this call. Why? Because they're not a market qualified. It's not a sales qualified lead if they haven't consumed at least and know who the hell we are. Right. So very difficult to make that sell. And so the consumption of a certain amount of material before to make it a sales qualified lead to help build trust so that sale can be made it's a waste of my number one guy's time on the phone to be having to cover that on the call. It makes the sales call 10 times more difficult. Right. And so
there's certain things that you want people to consume prior to your arrival that position you as the expert so that they will come to trust you quicker. And, I've always said, you don't want to get out-friended. So you do have to connect with both parties on one level or another before you move to the next phase, which the next step is now establishing your authority. It's built the trust, and that which breeds trust, right? How do you do that? You demonstrate that. You have to demonstrate it no different than they do when they paint that on the boat and drive it across, and you go, okay, that product must work. And you do it through data. You do it through the numbers. And it's not the numbers of, hey, here's what I think your house is worth. Here's your CMA. It's through the 10,000 foot view, showing them things that no one else is showing them about what's going on at the macro level, all the way to the micro level. Don't get down to neighborhood, because all they want you to tell them is what the house is worth. And the minute you give them that number, your number is going to get compared to two other numbers. Then they're going to pick the agent that, they'll make the wrong decision. They'll make the wrong decision. They'll either pick the agent they like or the one that gave them the best number. And so the goal is to establish, I always say, like, I want to see their eyes kind of glass over a little bit and them to go, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Right. Like that's when I know that they trust me, because I'm showing them and I'm using the data to establish my trust, to demonstrate my knowledge, and that I can help them make the right decision here that's going to ultimately net them the most amount of money. And so, like, it's such a key. It's the most important part of the process. And as I trained agents to be in place of me, like when I wanted to replace myself in production and I had to have someone go do exactly what I do, I had to unpack, what am I doing and what is the principle that I could teach somebody? And it took me forever to do that. It was really hard to do that, but there was a process I was following that worked more times than not. And so if you do the right steps in the right order and you're able to establish that trust, and there's things you can do. Like I used to, we have the magazine tear sheet, right? So like when I was really young, when I was a kid, I was calling FSBOs. The first FSBO that ever said yes. I'll never forget this. I was competing against Pam Marion, who was she wasn't number one in Remax at the time, but she ultimately became my number one competitor, sold 750 homes a year. I had to compete against her every day. Still like my arch nemesis to this day. They listed the house with me, and I always did an autopsy. So if I didn't win a listing, I would call them and I would say, hey, why didn't, I saw you listed with so-and-so, tell me what, and I would learn something. They would tell me something I didn't know, something the other agent had did or said. And it helped me kind of change what I would do so I wouldn't lose again. And, I had this magazine tear sheet. I paid like $4,000. They did this story and I printed it out. I didn't know what to do with it. So I was like, hey, this is this good bathroom reading material, and I sat it on the table. And so you can read that later if you want to. And I looked at them, looked down at this magazine that I'm on the cover of, look back up at me and treat me completely different, like completely different. I was like, wow. Yeah. Now, at the time, I didn't realize what actually was happening. It was that when you understand how people come to trust, you can deliberately manufacture ways to generate that trust. And when people see that you're on the cover of a book, a cover of a magazine, you're speaking on stage, that is in their brain, they're going, oh, that this person knows what they're doing. They're good at what they do, or they wouldn't be speaking about it, or they wouldn't be on a magazine, or they wouldn't be on a book. They wouldn't have wrote a book. Right. And so, but I didn't know at the time that I didn't understand that the principle there was it was creating authority for me. But I saw it in the moment, right? Like I saw how they were treating me different. I was like, that thing's pretty cool. There's something going on here. And so, they ended up listening with me. But these are things that you do in the process to establish trust without trying to sell people on how great you are. Because anything you tell somebody is devalued because you're the one saying it, right? And so you have to find ways to do that prior to your arrival, and then you have to demonstrate that in order to build the trust. That's the process I always use. Yeah. You don't win them all, but you certainly have a better chance of winning following that process than not.
It's interesting. There was a dentist, a very prominent dentist a long time ago. And I say a long time ago, probably 6-7 years ago, that this study came out. And what they figured out was that, they were getting all these no-shows for people, not showing up to the appointments in the dentist office. And what they started doing is they started having the appointment setters for the dentist would state the authority of the dentist. And they'd say, man, I'm shocked I was even able to get in to see Dr. J, because, dude, let me tell you, he is so busy. He's doing national lectures all the time on, dentistry to other dentists, teaching them how to use the latest techniques and how to make sure that they're getting the best outcomes for their patients. And man, I'm just glad I was even able to move some stuff on his schedule to make it possible for you to see him. Yep. So make sure you're on time because his time will be limited on what he can spend directly with you. And so what happened was, their show-up rates went through the roof when they started stating the authority of the dentist ahead of time. And I agree with you. Any third party endorsement, that's great. Another thing that we do is what do you send out? Like, you get an appointment, do you send out something to state your authority? Are you sending them a copy of that magazine? Are you making sure that you're now targeting them on social media so they're seeing stuff? So they're seeing you in front of a large audience, for example. Now, there's so many ways that you can enhance that authority. Now, I don't want to
I know in my garage, I have what I call my shock and awe box. I just saw the crate was in there, and I had a bunch of old stuff that I brought back from Thanksgiving to the house, and it's in this crate in there. We call it our shock and awe box.
What's in it?
So it's all branding, right? So it's testimonial. I mean, you can never have too many testimonials. If you sold 10 houses in your life, 10 testimonials, right? So, it's specific, right? When my house expired, I didn't know why it didn't sell. I hired Jay, he sold it in X number of days at X price, right? Like, very specific to the type of customer. So our expired box that went out, our shock and awe box, was filled with testimonials of people that had been through their situation, right? And so over time, you could collect those, right? So like that for me, because I called a ton of expireds, I had a ton of, I would run full newspaper testimonials, and I had an agent in my marketplace call me one time, and she was distraught that I had run this ad because everybody knew she had the listing before. Nobody knew, nobody cared. But I just really, it just looks bad on me. I'm like, well, you should have sold it. I don't know what to tell you. I sold it. You had it listed. I listed it at the exact same price, and I sold it. And we had 3 offers in 3 weeks. Maybe I got lucky. Granted, that might be the case, but it's not going to stop me from telling the story, right? So, but she was mad, and so I found out. The only reason I found out because she did call me, and she was very upset about it. And I was like, it's not personal. I said, it's just the truth. I mean, this is what happened. So what do you want me to do? Just not tell that story? It's a great story. If you sell, I'm sure I'm going to have an expired listing. You're going to pick up and you're going to sell. And, you should tell that story. Yeah, so absolutely. I pull up to a pit stop oil change place in Lawton, Oklahoma. And I know most of the people. My cousin ran a place like that. So I kind of knew a bunch of the people in that world or whatever. And they're like, Mr. Kinder, we're sorry, we're not allowed to service your vehicle. I said, what? Why? They said, well, this is Linda Parker's husband's owns all the pit stops in town. And they said that we're not allowed to service your vehicles anymore. That's how much she was pissed off at.
No way.
Yeah. So I had to go somewhere else to get my oil change. But
that's hilarious. You know what that reminds me of? You remember when Jeff Bezos and Leonardo DiCaprio are at this function here, I don't know, sometime last year or the year before. And Jeff had his girlfriend with him, and Leo starts flirting with the girlfriend. Girlfriend's flirting back. She's loving Leonardo DiCaprio. And the next day, Bezos was so pissed about it, he shut off Leo DiCaprio's Prime account. I'm like, that's all you got, bro?
That's it? Now I got to pay more for shipping. I don't get Prime Video.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny.
Right, it's so great. Yeah, but no, so but again, that's me. That's the capturing, the testimonial in the story. I don't ask them to write it. I write it for them, and I say, hey, is this kind of what happened? Yep. Okay, sign here. That's your testimonial. So and make I want somebody to consume as much of that as possible. And we learned this from Dan Kennedy. His book,
he's brilliant.
Trust-based marketing is the holy grail of building trust through marketing. Everything I do is like literally page by page. Like you know this as well as most people that know me. I'm not the smartest kid, but I will find whoever is, and I'm good at copying. And so I learned everything from Kennedy. Most of the greatest marketers on the planet have him as the mentor. But the shock and awe box was a Dan Kennedy thing. But again, Dan is this way, and like going back to your whole dentist story too, like. The best, you really want to, the goal is to create a business where people would run through red lights to want to do business with you if you would accept them, to use you as their trusted advisor. If I could like putting the red rope out, right? So you go to Vegas and you see the big red rope and everybody's outside and you get in the club and there's like 12 people in there and you're like, they sold that really good, right? But, it's that it creates that, well, this must be really good because it's hard to get in, right? And the same thing with the dentist is my dentist, I'd have to wait sometimes 2 months to get an appointment. I'm like, dang, man, my perception wasn't he's too busy for me. My perception was I better not miss that fucking appointment, right? Like that was my whole mindset around it. That's how I thought about it, genuinely how I thought about it, whether it was true or not. The perception of being difficult to get to. And what do real estate agents typically do? Make it easy to get to you. There's no gatekeeper for your time. Yeah, I could be right there. that doesn't create the what is the word I'm looking for? It doesn't create
fear of missing out,
or the perception that you are valuable. It doesn't. The perception of value isn't there. Well, nobody. Right. You don't even value your time. There's no gatekeeper for your time. There's nobody pre-selling saying certain things about you that's not you saying it, right, when you get there. And so if you wait till you get there to go through all your awards and all how great you are, and how, now it's just devalued because you're the one saying it. So so you want to have as much of that happen before. I want you to see me as a rock star before I ever get there. And then, I don't have to sell myself. That part's already been done. And that I learned that from Dan Kennedy. And, we were going to have him speak at one of our events. And he's like, we have to do 2 webinars. Everybody gets a book. There's certain things he wants you to consume when he gets on stage. He don't have to go through his accolades and tell how great he is. Mm-hmm. And he was very specific about what those things were. When you think of Dan Kennedy, you're like, grumpy old man, makes people a shit ton of money. Probably won't take you as a client because if he would, he probably would fire you anyways. Very difficult to deal with, impossible to get a hold of, hates social media and technology, doesn't even have a cell phone. Like all these things were embedded in every book he wrote, mm-hmm. Make people a lot of money, very grumpy old man. Like that's his persona. And then everything he did in marketing was to position himself that way. When me and Mike wanted to hire Dan Kennedy, it was $38,000 to do a day with Dan Kennedy. And there's no way to get a hold of this guy. He doesn't have, there's no page, there's no social media, there's no contact us, there's nothing. The guy's a ghost. Like we had to get to one of the events, chase him down in the hallway and like, Dan, we want to do a day with you. We had heard, that it's $38,000 and all this stuff or whatever, but so then he gives us his assistant's email address. We email her. We had to pay half up front before we even got on a call to discuss. And I was like, because Dan Kennedy, one of his quotes is amateurs get paid before, when the work's complete, and professionals get paid before work begins. And that always stuck with me because I always know that I got paid at the end of the transaction, right? Like real estate. That's what, and so, but then we were still like, Mike and I were looking, even knowing what he was doing to us, we were still like, I wonder if he's going to take us as a client. I wonder if he's even going to take the rest of our money. You know what I mean? Like we were kind of fearful, like, man, we better play this right. Don't be late to the way he has positioned himself to charge $38,000 for a day is brilliant. And that is what we want to do as real estate agents. We want to be positioned in such a way that people go, oh my gosh, I'm lucky that I even have this opportunity. Not as easy to do, but I love the concept, right?
No, but I agree with you. And one of the ways that you're saying that can be done is to be very, very, very focused on social proof, right? In other words, lots and lots of testimonials, making sure that people, know who you are before you get there. Boy, by the way, I am getting some weird lighting here. I'm going to go ahead and move over to here. I'm in my city house and I'm never here. Yeah. So anyway, that being said, that makes a ton of sense to me. And look at that. That worked well. All right. So that being said, I want to switch gears on you, Jay, because I know we've only got about 15 minutes left, and I want to make darn sure we cover this before I got another webinar coming here with Ryan Young, who's another guy that you know. And so I want to talk about AI for a minute. We're going to talk about the market. We're going to talk about TCPA interest rates at time permitting, but I really want to talk with you about AI because you have done some cool stuff with AI. Number one, you've got this new video AI. It's JAI. And it's hilarious as I'm telling you, man, it's freaking funny watching this thing. Yeah. And so what software are you using for JAI?
Yeah. So to be completely honest, I have no clue. So and so the guy that does it for me is a guy that's he's one of my A player. He's my operator, right? So when you got resources and you got people that can create things and you're like, hey, go do this thing, and they go do it, and you don't know how they do it. That's how that gets done. Right. So I don't have any idea what he's using. I know that it takes him a while to do it. He's using the creative. He's a good creative mind as well. But the cool thing about it is, I don't have to go create the message and then go shoot a video and do all that. And it's this JAI, which is just like my alter ego. Is you can tell it's AI. So playing off of that is fun, right? Like he's using that to play, like not trying to pretend like, hey, Jay actually shot this video. He's like, Jay's over doing some other stuff and he knows where the real opportunities are. You should reach out to him. But if you want this, you should call me because I'm here doing whatever, like the Donald Trump one we did the other day. It was funny as hell, but pretty cool. It's interesting. It's it's one of those things I like playing around with new technology and seeing how you can leverage it and use it. It's going to be very difficult to kind of determine. Certainly I got a lot of, comments and people talking about it and that kind of stuff. If anybody wants to go watch it, you can go to jkinder82 on Instagram and you can watch them. They're funny. But
hold on, jkinder82 on Insta.
Yeah, jkinder82. Yeah, they're just, and then think, how can how can you create a message, that's creative like that and use it, AI to, he's funnier than I am. I mean, I know that. But
so have you gotten results out of it? Has it produced tangible results?
I certainly have more awareness to what I'm doing, because we're using it for raising money on apartments. And so I'm am I getting people that immediately reach out to me and say, hey, I want to invest in apartments? No, but that's not the goal. The goal of that is to create the awareness and have an audience of people that are now downloading free stuff and then jumping on a webinar and that sort of thing. And so it's difficult to measure the success of it. A lot of really cool people have reached out to me wanting to know how I'm doing it, but that's which tells me, okay, well, people are watching it and they're seeing it, and so it's giving me a little bit of relevance in some ways that I'm doing something they don't even know how to do yet. But yeah, it's kind of hard to pin down. And I think this goes back to something you were saying earlier. With AI, AI is extremely impressive in what things you can get done now that you couldn't have got done easily before. So it allows you to become more efficient, execute on things that, I think execution is the hardest part. Implementation of ideas. It's not a shortage of ideas that's keeping people from growing their business. It's the implementation of them. And so now the ease of implementing things is just tremendous. It's incredible. And those that don't take advantage of it are going to be less efficient, and the ones that do are going to be extremely efficient. And that's it's fun to be able to execute ideas and not have to have 10 people on your staff, and you can do that now with AI.
So okay, let's get into some specifics here. So tell us exactly how, give us like 3 of your top ways that you're using AI in any of your businesses.
So, well, anytime that we're creating something. So, rather than me try to determine, I could go into my chat GPT and just look at the kind of prompts that I'm doing and tell you, but it usually starts with like if I'm trying to create something that's content wise, it's creating the structure of what all things I need to say in that piece. Right. So I use it for that. So like, for instance, we do a new construction. This is a great example. So in new construction, we run a new construction funnel. For lead generation, it generates, new construction generally is at a price point where people have a home to sell. So, you have people that have homes for sale, people are interested in new construction. But then if you go find the people in the marketplace, or like the builders in your market that are offering 3.9% financing. So now you can bake that into the ad where people didn't even know that was possible. Now they might really make a move now if they can get 3.9, because they're sitting on, 3% where they're at. And that's why they're not buying right now. And so there's some skill in creating a good message to the market. Well, the right way to create content is to understand who your audience is. And this is where people struggle with Instagram and what kind of content should I create. If you click on Frisco new construction, these homes must sell fast, 3.9% financing, not every builder's offering that, but I know which ones are. So if I talk to you, I'm going to be able to educate you as to, I'm in a position of strength on the call, and able to add value. But on the back end, you should create content that's specifically related to that person that clicked on that ad. So they want Frisco, because if it said Prosper, they wouldn't have clicked, because they want to live in Frisco. Most people, if they want to live in a particular city, they've identified it because of the schools or whatever the situation they're in. So we know that. Now I can go create content. The 5 biggest mistakes when people buy new construction in Frisco. You start to, and then you use Chat GPT. Hey, what are the 5 biggest mistakes people make when they buy new construction? Create a narrative or a video, or an outline for a video, or give me 5 different benefit rich headlines in the voice of Dan Kennedy. Because I'm a marketer, I think like a marketer, but now I can have AI give it to me as if Dan Kennedy had wrote it, which means it's just going to be really good, benefit rich headline. And now I can put that into the follow-up system, and I'm driving them to consume content that's going to build trust. Now they're more likely to respond to a call, respond to a text, respond to an email. But that's a content strategy attached to a lead generation plan, right? So now I'm getting an audience of people that I know are interested in something, and now I know what content I can create to add value. And that's where people, I think, don't connect the dots on how to create content. It needs to be about who is that specific person I'm talking to, not just doing drone footage of a house and running through it as fast as you can with a video camera. That's a gimmick, right? Like that's, you might get lucky and go viral and create a huge audience of people that think that was cool, but you're not positioned as anything other than somebody who runs through a house with a video camera. That doesn't excite me, because I don't see the angle for how to how to move someone to seeing me as the expert and picking up the phone if I call them, or picking up the phone and calling me. That's what I'm looking for. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, if it's like, I can't remember the book, but it's around differentiated value, not Differentiate or Die, which is a great book. But there was another one. It's like, you can have differentiation, but if it doesn't align to what consumer wants, then it's like having, I use the example of having, like, nobody would ever hire you. You could be a Christmas present opening company, and no one would ever hire you. Why? Because we all love to open Christmas presents. Nobody wants to delegate that part, right? So, like, you have to have value that's differentiated, that is in alignment to what consumers prefer, right? And so you see a lot of little gimmicky things out there, but, like, if you can create really good content that's aligned to what the problems are, what's the conversation going on in their head, interest rates, how to get a 3.9% interest rate when you buy new construction. These are things that people will watch because that's where they're at in their mind, right? And so that, I use AI to help, with the getting that part right. You know what I'm saying? And so I use it all the time for creating content.
Have you started using the new pro version of ChatGPT?
Yeah. Yep.
And so are you using it to actually do posting? Are you using it to actually go in and do functionality? Do you have SOPs in place that it's following to actually enact actions?
So I don't. I have a handful of staff that probably should be the ones on this call. And this is an interesting point, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have to become an expert at using AI, but I have to hire people that do. Right. Because their ability now I can dream. I'm a visionary. I'm going to dream up a bunch of ideas. Can we do this? Can you make it do that? And they'll be like, yeah, we can make it do that. And they'll go do it and they'll get it done. But they can do more of that now than they ever could. Whereas before, it would have been a huge bottleneck to create a bunch of stuff. Right. And so I like to be in that space of creation, and then have a team that can go execute. And I'm hiring specific to people that understand how to do this stuff. And that's what enables us to execute on these things. So I don't need to know all the ways it can be done. I just need to know, can it be done? Right.
Well, and not only that, I think you nailed it. You've got to hire specific people that are going to have those skill sets, and they don't need to be coders. They don't even need to be necessarily super techie, but they've got to be people that understand ChatGPT, understand or Baron XAI that you also mentioned you were using. They need to be able to utilize those tools, and they need to understand that, look, we're not trying to replace you at all. We need you to run these tools, right? Yep. So when we have the right people in place that can run those tools, we give them the vision. We say, hey, this is what I want to do. Can we make it do this? Then they spend the next 6, 7, 8 hours figuring it out. Right. They get it done, and now it's on autopilot, right? We can tweak it and set up SPs to make sure it's doing it on a daily basis. I think that's a major part of the future of real estate. I think you're going to see a consolidation of this industry. I think we'll just use the TC side. There was a time, Jay, where you and I, we had one TC. They could barely do 25 transactions a year with a decent CRM. A month. Now you get a good TC can do 50, 60, 70 transactions a month. Now with AI coming in, I think we're going to see a time where, I don't know if TCs will entirely go away. I think it's very possible. But I think at the very least, you're going to have a time where a good transaction coordinator is doing north of 100 transactions a month with ease. And they're doing a better job of it than the ones that you and I had 30 years ago doing 25 transactions a month.
Right. 100%, dude. The gains in, and part of the benefit of being in Lawton, Oklahoma with a low average sale price was, when I learned, efficiencies and the things that I did to create that space. Once I learned how to make my time more efficient, then I had all these people I was paying that I had to teach the same thing. Mm-hmm. And, until you have made yourself more productive, you can never hire people and teach them to do it. So it's a real kind of big aha that you get to, like, okay, I got to nail down my calendar, my time, my priorities, how I determine what I'm going to do, what I say no to. And when I open the door for anything, and when I turn the phone off, put the stop sign on the door, and stay focused on my time block and all. Like I had to get to that level of understanding how valuable my time actually was before I could actually ever teach anybody else. I was hiring people and they were completely inefficient in the stupid shit I was having them do. And so when I went to Tracy, who was my TC, I asked her, I said, where's most of your time getting wasted? And I asked her a bunch of questions, and it was like the agents, they come in my office in the morning and they sit here and they sit here and talk to me forever. I can't even work on these files. And so I took the chairs out of her office. So the first thing I did was took the chairs out of her office. Now people had to come in there and stand and feel awkward for a few minutes. And then I said, if you will just put on your phone a message that says, I return calls between 11 and 12, I'll return calls between 11 and 12, go to work on all those files, and then give all the updates. It was all the same people that were calling and blowing up the phone all morning. And so every deal that she was working on, that she needed to work on, that time block of time to do that in the morning, make the, she became more efficient. She went from managing about 35 files to about 70, 80 files.
Yep.
It blew my mind, bro. Like, I was like, this is nuts. Like, and then I just geeked out on efficiency, right? Like, but I had to. My average sale price was low. Like, I would have never been able to, make any money if I hadn't done it that way. But AI is just 10xing that. Like, it really is creating a better experience for people. And have you used Loom? What Loom has now, an SOI. I was just shooting a video. I didn't even know that Loom had it. I was like, what the hell is this? AI and Loom? I was just shooting a video trying to walk Pete through how to pull down some numbers for me. And I was trying to get it off my plate because I was doing it. And then it said, create an SOP. The SOP was literally perfect. SOP done, never touched it again. It took me 3 minutes to shoot the video on it, and I was just walking them through what I do every time. I was like, why am I doing stuff like this? Like, then you start thinking, how many other things am I doing like this that I don't need to be doing that I can get off my plate? And then now you got all this time to go do higher dollar productive activities. And that, I love it. I mean, it just, it's as whatever you can dream up now, you can literally create now. And it is a, you don't have to be the expert, though. That's the other thing. You just need to have the right people to delegate things to.
Well, and to your point, I think really, and don't get me wrong, when ChatGPT first came out, I think it certainly made a big difference. But I think especially literally every month, it's expanding so rapidly and so quickly, and it's getting so much better. It's just exponential growth every single day, week, month. Mm-hmm. I think right now, more than ever, every single agent out there, and not just agents, but every business owner out there needs to start looking at and asking the question, what in my business can be done by AI? How can we use AI to do this? Every single question that comes up, we should be saying to ourselves, okay, is this going to be done more than once? Okay, then how can AI do it? And we need to figure out, how to implement that in literally every aspect of our businesses. Because here's what I believe. I believe if you don't, I believe that you're going to get left behind. Yeah, and it's not just a matter of how do I make more money. It's a matter of how do I stay relevant? How do I stay profitable in an environment where there's consistent pressure on, downward pressure on commissions. There's everybody and the brother is coming after the real estate industry right now. We've got to get more efficient. We've got to be lean. We got to be mean, and we've got to be very, very effective for our clients without spending as much time on the day to day. So,
you're 1,000% right. It is the agent that an agent that can only do so much in a day is only going to make a certain amount of dollars, and for the agent that can expand that and 10x that amount of things that can get done, the things that would sit on my to-do list or on my backlog of things I want to execute, I can take more priorities and execute on them faster than I could before. So it enables you to grow and implement things faster, test things faster, get things off your plate, get things off your staff's plate. It really is. It's fascinating. And if you're not thinking this way, if you stay with your head in the sand, like I'm not trying to grasp this, you're just going to become irrelevant. I mean, you'll just do a little bit, a handful of deals, and that's all you'll be able to do.
And you'll never reach your full potential. Well, Jay, I appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Yeah, man.
We are out of time. I've got to jump. I've got to get on a call with Ryan Young next. But Jay, I want to do this.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy, super smart guy. So for those of you that don't know Jay well, you need to get to know Jay. Jay, your best years, what were you doing transaction count wise?
500. I did 500 plus a year for probably a decade. So, by the way, I don't necessarily recommend that as a strategy.
Jay's done very, very well. He's been around the block in this business. He's grown one of the biggest downlines in any organization in real estate. And so I would recommend you reach out to him. Jay, how do they contact you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me. I'm easy to find. My cell phone's on everything. Facebook, Jay Kinder, JKinder82 on Instagram. Reach out to me. If I can help you, I'll share anything that I've got. Go and meet JAI. He's an interesting cat.
All right. Last word on the market, Jay. I know it's 9:00 and so I've got to go, but just really one final word on your outlook for 2025. What do you think?
Rates need to be 5 point something before we're going to see a big shift. We'll still have a shortage of supply and a shortage of homes across the country. I think the number is 4 million short of the housing that we need. And at 1 million a year, that's still going to be the case. But nobody's building right now anything that's considered affordable housing. So I think the lower end of the marketplace is going to move super fast. Those homes are going to probably increase the most in value because you can't build them for that cost. And, I think we can't control what the rates do. But I think focusing in on that under 500,000 range is going to be where all the market moves and we see more appreciation in those homes. Affordable housing has got to be a problem that's got to be solved. And right now, there's no real, you can't build them cheap enough. So finding ways to be in that arena is probably a good strategy. If rates do come down, I think the agent that's positioned to do the best is the agent that's been creating the most buyer leads, because those people that have home to sell. So buyer leads in a higher price point where people say, I'm not moving from a 3% and 7%. My payment will go from here to here. It's just not worth moving. That when rates come down, all those people will have homes hit the market and some inventory hits the market where people have equity, and some of these homes will start moving and in the upper price point. So that's cross our fingers. We don't control it, but I think we got a good person steering the ship right now. So
I don't disagree with you there at all. And so with that, Jay, I appreciate you being on today. Guys, here's the key. Build that pipeline. Get out there. Start using AI in your business and really find every single way you can use AI in your business. And then build that pipeline, nurture that sucker. And guys, it'll kick off eventually. It will happen, but there's some things we just don't control. So in the meantime, be building and be nurturing that pipeline. So when it happens, you're going to be on top. Take care, guys. Jay, thank you so much. And we'll catch up with you again soon.
All right, buddy. See you, Michael.
Take care, brother. All right, bye.
Yep. Club Wealth is the only coaching company on the planet that will literally guarantee that you will double your income or make at least an extra $100,000 your first year coaching with us, or we will give you 100% of your investment back. Click the link below, sign up for the appropriate tier level, and let's get you a strategy session today. And I promise you, I 100% guarantee you, promise you that you will walk away with a heart full of gratitude for the time that we took for you, because you got so much value out of that call. Schedule your strategy session today. I promise you'll be glad you did.